All right, I understand, guys. It's another Snake Eyes video, but I just have to cover this one because this deck is actually pretty relevant, right? And it's the new Melodious Snake Eye deck. It actually did pretty well at YCS Rio. It actually got second place there, along with a bunch of other people in Top Cut also doing fairly well with this deck, right? Now, just as a disclaimer first, now this is a combo that I pretty much not necessarily thought of, but I've seen people do something similar to this, and I don't know if this is the correct combo that people were using for the YCS. Now, the reason why I actually say that is because I watched two deck profiles from YCS Rio, and they did play the Melodious cards, right? But some of them branched their combos very differently. So sometimes in this deck, you can actually, if you look at the extra deck here, you can play cards like Baguska, you can play cards like Vortex Dragon, and your combo can actually change, right? But the combo that I'm going to be showing you guys for this video is going to be more focused on the Snake Eye cards, because as you guys can already see by this deck, just by this Melodious engine alone, we need 4 slots. It's Shkaberta, the Melodious Mastra, Baka, Banshee, and Exceed the Pendulum. There's 4 cards that we're taking in this extra deck, which is a little bit suspect, right? And I also want to give a second disclaimer also, right? I'm not telling you to play this, okay? I don't know if this is good or not compared to like a regular pure version, especially in my last video where I talked about like number 38 being part of the end board. This deck is a little bit suspect because not only is your engine, if you guys can see here, right? This is a sample deck list, but let's actually talk about the engine really quick. It's the Melodious deck. Now, let's talk about this engine real quick, right? It is a 8-card engine main deck with a 4-card engine extra deck, right? Now, obviously, like, this is fine if I believe the payout is very good, right? Which we're going to talk about in a bit, but yeah, it's very costly, and the reason why I'm actually showing this is more of like an informative thing, just to show you guys like, yeah, this combo exists, people are playing it, but I will advise you guys, it's a little bit suspect because I don't know if it's actually good or not, right? So that's just my personal opinion there. I just wanted to lay that out there so you guys don't just, so it's not just me like showing off this combo telling you like, oh, play this, pick this up right now, you have to play this in your Snake Eyes deck, right? Just relax, right? You don't have to play this at all. But let's go over and explain some of the cards, because I definitely think people don't know the cards yet. So I probably should do a separate video on just the Melodious deck, like as its pure core, but honestly I'm not familiar with all the combos yet. I know what the deck does, and I've been focusing on some of the combos, but there are actually some combos that I have not seen on YouTube yet that I want to lab out before I make a video on, right? Because I don't want to just repeat like another YouTube video. I actually want to make like some good combos that doesn't take up like stupid cards in your extra deck. So that's my progress right now. But for the Snake Eyes version, I actually have a fairly solid game plan on how this deck actually functions, right? So for the first card we're actually going to go over is, this is the main card essentially of this engine. This is like your branded fusion. It's the one that you want to draw, and this one called Reframe of the Melodious Strong Stress is the card that you send off Ostinato. But the thing is, this card is actually not a brick because it is a 1-card engine by itself still, and I will show that in this video as well. But the thing that's suspect once again is that it plays this card called Couplet and Melodious Concerto, and these cards right here are bricks. Like, they are hard bricks. You can't do shit with these cards. Like, at least with like a Flamberge Dragon, like, okay, you can discard it and then, you know, summon back 2 sometimes. But for the most part, these cards are unplayable, right? So let's go ahead and read them, just to give you guys a brief explanation of how they function, right? So your main card, it reads, if you control no monsters, which is very important actually, fusion summon 1 Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using 2 monsters from your hand or deck, which is mainly just going to be your deck. And then during the end phase, they get shuffled or whatever. It doesn't matter because we're just going to link it off anyway. So essentially, it's just random fusion. That's all you really need to know. Don't like confuse yourself. You don't need to read the extra text, right? And essentially, you're going to be sending 2 copies of Reframe. This is your like material, and you're going to be summoning your Baka, right? And then that leads you into this entire combo. Now, I don't want to go too in depth with it. I'm just going to read the card and how it kind of briefly works, because in the combo, I'm going to show you, which is better than just me telling you, right? So next card is Refrain, which it reads, if this card is normal summon, you can add 1 Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. So, you know, that's going to be the card that you summon off Baka. And then this card is pretty much a level 4 that gets you into your extending plays, right? And then we also have the Concerto and the Couplet. Now, these cards are pretty much once these cards resolve, refrain, or estonado, then the whole entire engine will actually grab both of these cards out of your deck, right? You need them in your deck for this to work, and the purpose of doing all this is because these cards are like your supplementary cards that are more generic, that plays through interruption, which is pretty much the role and purpose of playing Melodious in Snake Eyes, right? Think of it like Kashtira Snake Eyes, right? You're using the Unicorn essentially to mitigate the impact of like a Veiler, right? So let's say you go special summon Unicorn, activate effect, search, normal summon Snake Eye Ash, which you do in the Kashtira Snake Eyes deck. Your Snake Eye Ash gets Veilered, but then your Unicorn rips a card, and then you can still go into IP, birth back the Unicorn, Promethean Princess if you want to. It gives you that second layer to push, and essentially these are what these cards are, right? You activate this card, I mean, you have to Ash this card. You're not going to let this card resolve, right? You have to Ash this card, and then the idea is that after that, then you can normal summon Snake Eye Ash. So these cards are like the baits, but if they do resolve, they're good, right? Which is the same thing as like any other form of engine in terms of cash, right? Like let's say they have no hand traps, right? Like Unicorn Fenrir on board on top of full combo is pretty good, right? So these allow you to get your, you know, free cards into the board, which one of the main cards is going to be Shkaberta, and this card is basically it's a shuffler, right, on the field. During the player's turn, you can target 3 cards in the graveyard, banish them, or I guess they don't shuffle back, they banish, but same thing, right? Target 3 cards, quick effect, you know, and yeah, that's like a very strong piece of your end board actually. On top of that, what this card can do is crazy, because not only does it doesn't just summon like this card, right? Your whole entire engine actually bridges into your Snake Eye engine, because as you can see, these are level 4 monsters, and a Banshee is level 4. Astonado does not take up your normal summon, and this card can search Populars, right? And so you guys get the idea of where this is going, right? So it's essentially the entire engine here. Like I said, it is very hefty to play, and it serves almost the same role as I would say the Kashtira cards. So in my mind right now, from the, you know, obviously there could be a combo out there that I'm not aware of, right? That could make this deck, you know, shoot to the stars and reach for the moon, right? But as far as I know, it is playing almost the same role as Kashtira cards, but it is eating up. It's eating up 8 cards in my deck, 2 being bricks, 4 in my extra deck. That's, I mean, come on, that's a hard bargain, you know, like, no deal, you know, like, I don't know about that, you know, like, that's crazy. The cash cards are pretty clean. They don't take up anything at all. And a Draco Sack, I guess, but you don't really have to play Draco Sack, right? But yeah, that's pretty much my entire thoughts on this engine, and me just explaining to you guys how this engine works. Let's go ahead and dive straight into the combos and show you guys a visual example of how these cards work into play. Okay, so before this combo actually starts and I show you guys how it's done, there's something that I did say in the intro of this video, or, you know, my 7-minute intro. Essentially, I said that this type of engine is similar to the cash cards, and which they kind of are, but there's one major difference between this engine and the cash engine, is that the Astonado and the Refrain, the cards that make this engine work, those cards actually bridge into the Snake Eye cards, right? So if you draw this card by itself, you still get to combo. Let's say, for example, if you just draw Kashtira Unicorn, obviously, if you don't draw Snake Eye Ash along with it, it is not getting you to combo. So this card serves as 2 roles, in the terms that it serves you having access to your engine, and then 2, also having access to baiting out a hand trap if you already have engine, which could matter, but realistically, like, a Snake Eyes deck is in theory already consistent, right? So it's like you are making your deck more consistent, but that's not the problem, I think, with Snake Eyes. Like, Snake Eyes doesn't have a consistency issue, I would say. So like, it's not like this makes your deck more consistent, but it's not like your deck lacked that to begin with. Does that make sense? So like, yes, it is kind of different, and it does make it a little bit better, but like I said, it's not the right role that it's fulfilling, right? Like, imagine if Labyrinth came out with more trap cards, right? That wouldn't help the deck, essentially, right? Like, the point is not like the traps. Like, it has enough traps already. It's more of like, how can we make Labyrinth go second, for example, right? So this is essentially what it is. I hope that like kind of makes sense. It is a buff, but it's a buff that doesn't like, no one asked for it, essentially, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the combo here. We're gonna go ahead and use Asanado. Asanado is gonna send 2 of our refrain, like I said earlier, to summon our Baka. Right now, what we're gonna do here is activate Baka. So this card reads: if this card is special summon, you can special summon 1 Melodious monster from your deck. Very simple. We're gonna go ahead and summon refrain. When refrain is normal special summon, you can add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. Which we're gonna search our couplet, which is our brick. Now the couplet is very similar to Popular. And this card says if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can reveal it. Just reveal it. It doesn't special like Popular. I actually thought it did when I first was going through this and I was summoning Couplet, but no, it is not summoned. It just stays in your hand and then becomes just a monster reborn. So you bring back a refrain. So refrain will come back. Next, you'll scale Couplet. What Couplet does is it lets you add a Melodious spell and trap. So your last card, or which is your last brick, which is the Concerto. So now all your bricks are out of your deck. Go ahead and use the Concerto. Concerto is pretty cool because you can actually fuse from your scale and your field, which is kind of weird. But yeah, you're going to be fusing this couplet from your scale and then this refrain from your field. Now, these cards, these Melodious cards, like the refrain and the couplet, they have pretty cool clauses, and they're all the same. So I'll just tell you, whenever they're used, not used for a fusion summon, when a fusion summon activates while these cards are in the extra monster zone face up, you can just activate both of them, chain block them, and then all they do is they go back to your scales. So it allows you to pendulum summon after you fuse with them, right? And then also another thing with this card, it's called Melodious Concerto, which is, you know, what I just did was just fuse, which is the first part, but it has a random second effect where after you fuse, it reads you can place this card on the bottom of your deck and draw 1 card, because why not? But it free draw, right? So next up, we're gonna actually be linking with the Baka and the face up refrain. So yeah, we're summoning Scriberta. Scriberta stays on field. We're going to go ahead and link the 2 for IP Masquerena. Now we're going to get some triggers here. The triggers are going to be the Concerto, like I said, to draw, and then we're going to use Baka's effect when it leaves the field. And this card reads: if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So that'll be your refrain. So it's kind of like a mini loop here. And then we're going to summon back a copy of refrain. Next up, we're going to use our Pendulum Summon to Pendulum Summon 1. Now, at this point, the theory is that if they Nibiru you here, right, like I said in all the other combos, like how cash works, right? So you're using this engine to bait out the hand trap. So this will be the bait. They have to nib you here. And in theory, you have Snake Eye Ash in your hand, similar to how like any other engine is supplemented, right? But let's say your only combo is Asanado and nothing else. Yes, you will die to Nibiru, right? But that's to be warranted. Like, I don't think... I mean, if this card alone can play through Nibiru, then sure, right? But it cannot in terms of the Snake Eyes deck, right? In its own deck, it can, because it plays other cards. But in the pure Snake deck, you basically can't. Now, there's one way to actually play it, this engine, to play around Nib, and it requires another card in the extra deck, which I just showed earlier. It's called Exceed the Pendulum. The problem with that card is that like, you're taking up 4 cards in my extra deck already. That's too much, right? Like, I can't do that. But there is a combo that I will show you after this that kind of makes sense why you need Exceed the Pendulum. But for this example, I'm just telling you guys right now, like, this engine is meant to force out something. But if it doesn't, let's say your opponent doesn't play hand traps, then it just makes your board better, right? But in theory, they nib you here, and you're supposed to have Sega Astro Die Bellstar. If you don't, get better, right? So go ahead, and next up, we're going to summon our Banshee. Banshee will activate its effect to search a Popular. Very simple. We kind of understand how this works. Popular, activate effect, get original Sinful Spoils. Make a link for Apollosa. Go ahead and use Popular effect, Popular, to place into the spell and trap zone. Activate original Sinful Spoils. Sending Popular. Popular will summon Snake Eye Ash. Snake Eye, we haven't normal summoning yet, so we're going to go ahead and use our Snake Eyes Oak effect. We'll then activate to summon Popular. We're going to go ahead and use the Snake Eye Ash effect to send that and Popular to summon Flamebridge. Flamebridge, place IP, link to 2 for any link to. You can summon Hida here if you know it's not a fire deck, so you know, so that's an option too, but it just needs to be a burn. It just needs to be a burn link too, but I think the best one is just Phoenix because you play it anyways. Next up, we're going to go ahead and Monster Reborn, make Promethean effect, get Flamebridge. Next up, we'll use these 2 for Raging and Zealantis. So this is a crazy end board. It's basically the same Snake Eyes end board without Divine Temple, with Princess Engraved 2, Appaloosa on top, and with your Scriberta on field, which is pretty cool actually. And you still have your or I guess you pen summon in this combo already, but it's kind of funny because these scales remain on the field, so you can, pen summon on like your following turn if you need, which basically won't ever come up, but it's kind of funny if it does. So essentially that's what this entire combo does. Now, as you can see here, the difference is the like Kashtira cards aren't gluing into the Snake Eyes card, right? If you just draw the cash cards, then it doesn't really help. But for the most part, the Ostinato is a fragile way to play regardless. So I don't think it's a reliable strategy in terms of comparing Melodious to Kashtira cards, right? What I'm trying to say is it's pretty hard explanation for me to explain for some reason. I just think that cash cards and the Ostinato and the Melodious cards are pretty much on the same playing field is what I'm trying to get at, which is why, like, I'm telling you, it's so hard for me to determine if this combo is good or not. But I guess for the sake, I'm just gonna tell you guys this is just informative. I'm not telling you guys to play it once again because I just don't know if it's actually good or not, right? Now, I also want to show another piece of the combo, which won't be the entire thing, but it's gonna be this deck, Melodious deck. But if you draw Refrain and you don't draw Ostinato, this will almost never come up though. And the reason why it will never come up is because what are the chances you just draw Refrain by itself and not Snake Eye Ash, right? Like if you have two normal summons to pick between and you drew Snake Eye Ash and you drew Refrain, or you drew Poplar and you drew Refrain and you drew Witch and Refrain, you're rarely ever gonna do this, but like I guess it does come up. I guess if you randomly just draw Refrain for some reason, and which is the level 4 monster, and this is how it works, right? I'm just showing you guys that it still works, right? So we're gonna go ahead and grab our Refrain to our hand. Normal summon our Refrain. Refrain will add our couplet, because it reads you can add a Melodious monster. Obviously, you can't use couplet's effect like we did in the last combo because there's nothing in graveyard. So you're gonna go ahead and scale the couplet. Couplet will then add a spell card, and you're probably wondering why I am not adding Ostinato here, but Ostinato has a clause where it literally reads, if you control no monsters. So I have a monster, so it sucks that you can't actually combo well with this card, but I guess it works, right? So we're going to use Concerto. Like I said earlier, we can fuse from our scale, and then we're going to go ahead and summon Baka. Baka will then activate its effect to summon, and I guess we're going to scale too as well. Scale. Baka will summon another Refrain from your deck. Go ahead and use, this is pretty interesting here because we actually have to use this effect because we need, when Baka is linked off and it's sent to graveyard, it will summon a Melodious from your graveyard, but you don't have one. But if you link these two away, then the Refrain will go back to this spell and trap zone, or not spell and trap zone, the extra face up extra monster zone. God, these terms. So you won't have anything to summon back of Baka, but what's really funny is this Refrain has a random scale effect that reads you can target one Melodious fusion monster and send a Melodious monster and it gains some attack. So you just activate it just for funsies, so you can have one in the graveyard to Reborn from Baka. So you use Refrain here to send Refrain because it can send itself for some reason. Okay, so we'll go ahead and link these two for Exceed the Pendulum. You actually can't do that in this combo. I actually reviewed this, but you just need like a burner link 2. And the reason why, because Baka is going to go ahead and summon back the thingy-majig, the Refrain. So for our example, we just summon IP here, right? It doesn't actually matter whatever this card is for the sake of this example. So instead of using Exceed the Pendulum, we just use our Pendulum summon instead. I don't think it really matters in me like showing this because I'm just gonna show you guys how it glues together, and pretty much this ends here. The point of this little like engine or this little loop that we just did, like the whole like Refrain into this into couplet, is all so that we can make a Banshee. That's it. This is the whole entire point, right? It's nothing crazy. Like all you have to do, if you know they're like trying to do this, just a tip out there, because I think a lot of people are watching this for informative reasons. If you see them do this, just don't even hand trap them, just wait till they summon Banshee. That's it, right? And like if you're scared of them summoning IP, I guess you can Valor like Refrain, because them normal summoning Refrain is a sign that their hand is really weak, because there's no way you summon Refrain if you have Ostinato, if you have Snake Eye Ash, if you have any one of those cards. So in theory, their hand is shit, so you can Valor that, but just know that this combo is very Nibiru prone as well, because you can just nib them literally right here. And yeah, but let's say everything goes well, then yes, this engine technically can get into your Snake Eyes card, which is like I said, right? A lot of people are trying to tell me that like, oh yeah, the Melodious cards can bridge into the Snake Eyes cards, which is cool, but it's like, it's it's so fragile how it gets there, right? Like you die to anything, like one card, right? And like, yeah, I feel like this engine should be looked at as a supplement engine, not a consistency engine, right? So I think that was pretty much a long one, guys. These are the two combos you can do, one with Ostinato, one with Refrain. And like I said, I just wanted to show off the entire engine. And once again, not condoning you guys to play this. And it could be good, right? I don't know. And it could not be. I don't know either. But I hope you guys found this video informative anyways. So you guys, if you guys made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and sub. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.